Coming up next, the story of a band that was so great at creating hits, they had multiple projects in between the one album they were doing together. In fact, between the lead singer and the bassist, they had over a dozen top 10 hits over just a couple of years, solo and different bands. But today's song might be their very best. It was so prophetic, many now wonder if these guys were time travelers, because their 1986 smash hit describes our day to a T. And most don't realize it, this is actually a protest song. You're going to find out. It helped that the music video supporting the song was just as compelling, led by some really deranged muppets that cost $10,000 each. Man, this is such a great story. It's coming up next on Professor of Rock. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you're the one that everybody wants on their team whenever they play any kind of trivia game, you're going to dig this channel. Music nostalgia all the time, stuff you won't find anywhere else. Make sure that you subscribe below right now and click the bell so that you never miss out on our daily music extravaganza. We also have a Patreon. You'll want to check that out. There you're going to find an additional catalog of exclusive content. You can even become an honorary producer. That really helps us keep this a daily channel. And we appreciate your support on that. So it's time for another edition of Number One in Our Hearts. This is where we cover a song that was so great, so impactful that it should have been number one on the Billboard Hot 100, but for reasons that we'll find out, came up a little bit short. Today we're covering a song that is probably remembered better for its music video than its number 4 ranking on the Billboard Hot 100. That's a rare thing indeed. Really is one of the most memorable music videos of the 80s. It's a song that describes our day in detail, really. It's Genesis with A Land of Confusion.
This is a place for the future.
So by the time Genesis released their 13th studio album, Invisible Touch, on June 6, 1986, the band had basically taken over the world. There's no doubt the 80s were good to Genesis, who at this time consisted of Tony Banks on keyboards and synth bass, Mike Rutherford on guitar, and of course Phil Collins on drums and lead vocals. Now, these former prog rockers had transformed themselves into an all-out pop rock powerhouse. 1980's Duke, 1981's Abacab, and 1983's Genesis, they all did well across the world and in the US. They went to number 11, number 7, and number 9 respectively, churning out 6 top 40 singles.
There must be some standing to blame. Tell me, do you think I'm to blame? It's always the same, it's just a shame, that's all.
But if the commercial success of Genesis wasn't enough, there was also solo careers to consider. In February of '85, Phil Collins released his 3rd solo record, the massive 12 times platinum number 1 album and Grammy for Album of the Year, No Jacket Required, one of my favorites. It contained a slew of chart champions, 2 number 1 hits, a number 4 spot, and a number 7 placement.
All the time, studio. 'Cause I can't live forever.
Add to that chart-topping cuts Against All Odds and Separate Lives, a duet, and the number 2 Philip Bailey collaboration, Easy Lover. It's clear that Phil Collins was one of the 80s biggest acts.
The odds, and that's what I've got to face. She's an easy lover. Living separate lives.
Most think that the 80s were ruled by Michael Jackson, Prince, Madonna, George Michael, Whitney Houston, Bruce Springsteen, and they're right. But from 1985 to 1987, between solo and Genesis, Phil was bigger than anyone. And he looked more like your cool uncle than a pop idol. Said Mike Rutherford, "I don't know any other bands who have done what we did. Run successful solo careers along with Genesis. Most guys start a solo career because they're frustrated. But that wasn't us. Genesis was doing great, but we just wanted variety. Was there any competition between us? I suppose, but we all knew we couldn't beat Phil Collins." But Rutherford, really had nothing to be ashamed of. I mean, his 1985 side project, Mike and the Mechanics, had its own fair share of success. Their solo debut, released in October of 85, featured the number 6 hit, Silent Running on Dangerous Ground, and number 5, All I Need Is a Miracle. Both great songs. Meanwhile, Tony Banks kept busy composing film scores for the Kevin Bacon-led Quicksilver. Bet you haven't thought of that in a while.
Is the courage to get it back. Kevin Bacon.
And the 1984 sci-fi film Lorca and the Outlaws, later renamed Starship. The best cuts from these two movies appeared on his 1986 collection, Soundtracks.
Lorca and the Outlaws. Their name is legend.
Maybe I'm just stating the obvious here, but the members of Genesis, together or separate, were a hot commodity moving into their next album. Cue Invisible Touch. As we get into this, more about the music, I do want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear, the frames that I wear every single day. You know, it doesn't matter what your budget is. Zenni is affordable. It's eyewear for everybody, including kids' frames. So many styles, colors, and fashions to choose from, and you or any member of your family, for that matter, can do a virtual try-on. See exactly how you look before you buy. Check it out at Zenni.com today. In late 1985, Genesis started crafting Invisible Touch with the help of producer Hugh Padgham, who had worked on the group's 2 previous records. The album's tracks were written entirely through group improv sessions without the benefit of demos beforehand. Said Phil Collins, we would arrive in the studio every day and just start playing. I'm sure people have all kinds of ideas about how we wrote these songs they love or loathe, but really our writing process was close to jazz. We improvised. We weren't afraid to make lousy noises. We knew each other well. If I started singing crap, no one would say, "What the hell are you doing?" End of quote. I guess they followed their muses and sorted the rest out later. But according to Tony Banks, they had such confidence going into Invisible Touch that they weren't at all worried. The music was flowing out of them and the improv was producing results, real results. And since everyone knew everyone's strengths and weaknesses, they knew when to challenge each other and when they had something really good. There's virtually no song on that album that you could say was by one person rather than another, is what Tony Banks would say. He would also say it was very much writing as a totality. 3 people writing almost as one. Invisible Touch capped the band's commercial tear through the 80s with their 4th straight number 1 album in the UK. It turned in a record number 3 ranking here stateside, going platinum times 6. Around the rest of the world, Invisible Touch reached number 14 in Japan, number 8 in France, number 5 in Italy and Austria, to number 3 in Norway, Sweden, Australia, and Switzerland, and number 2 in the Netherlands, Germany, and Finland. Oh, it went to number 1 in Canada and New Zealand as well. The album also unloaded 5 U.S. top 5 hits, title song giving the band their first and only Hot 100 number 1 single. Other singles included Throwing It All Away, Into Deep, and Tonight, Tonight, Tonight.
But I'm in too deep. 'Cause tonight.
And of course, today's featured song, Land of Confusion, which deserved number 1, right alongside Invisible Touch. Musically, Land of Confusion was a 3-way rocking collaboration between band members, but lyrically, it belonged to Mike Rutherford. Said Rutherford, there were certain songs that we knew Phil should be working on because there was a vocal moment that suits his style. Tony would usually work on the longer songs. As for me, I tended to write the simple lyrics like Throwing It All Away, Turn It On Again, Land of Confusion, and Follow You, Follow Me. Yes, Land of Confusion's anti-war theme isn't groundbreaking, but sometimes simplicity is what you need to get people on board with your message. The essence of the song is that too many people are causing too many problems around the world, and we need to come together as a people to change things. In other words, we need to start acting like we care about each other. Hard concept to understand in these days. Land of Confusion is one in a long line of 80s protest songs which typically called out the Cold War strife between the US and the USSR. Because Genesis was standing on a larger soapbox, much larger than ever before. Land of Confusion is definitely one of the best remembered anthems from the 80s. With a phenomenal Phil Collins vocal, the music was written by all three members, but like I said, Mike Rutherford penned the lyrics. The song opens with the lines, "I must have dreamed 1,000 dreams, been haunted by 1,000,000 screams." No doubt this refers to the violence and the suffering prevalent throughout the world. But in a rebutting image of opposition, Rutherford replies, "But I can hear the marching feet. They're moving into the street." It's a call to rise up and do something about the evil in the world. And the next line, Rutherford makes an interesting comment about our tendency to believe whatever the news media tells us. Now, did you read the news today? They say the danger's gone away. In this case, the headlines say all is well and that there's really nothing to worry about. But it could just as easily be any number of stories that the media really wants us to focus on, to distract us. The message here is that we have to think for ourselves and come to our own conclusions. Because no matter what we are led to believe, people from all walks of life are hurting in this world. The fire is still alight. They're burning into the night. And the chorus comes in, which sadly I think rings more true today, like I said, than it did back in 86 and 87. There's too many men, too many people making too many problems, and not much love to go around. Can't you see? This is the land of confusion. I think Rutherford nails it when he writes that there's not much love to go around. This confusion that he references is a direct result of a lack of love, a lack of empathy for one another. Maybe it sounds somewhat cliche, but increasing love and decreasing hate is the remedy for the ills festering around the world. It starts with us in our homes, our own homes. And I may be biased here, but I think that the music is a good place to start. Something that I love about this channel's community is that with rare exception, people treat each other with respect and kindness. To me, it is absolutely awesome to see this. I mean, people from all around the world coming from different backgrounds and beliefs, finding common ground in music. And that's what this is all about. Music. I think we're on something. Anyway. Yeah, I know that not everyone loves every song, band, or genre that we cover here. People let me know that, but that's okay. People are entitled to their own preferences. But I've seen it happen again and again. Even if someone doesn't particularly care for an artist or a song, a lot of times they'll tune in anyway and give it a chance. And I think it's cool that so many of you out there are open enough to at least give it an honest listen. That's exactly the kind of open-mindedness that we need in the world right now, more than ever. You are all the proof that this is possible. So when Collins gets to the rest of the Rutherford Penn chorus, this is the world we live in, and these are the hands we're given. Use them, and let's start trying to make it a place worth living in. In the next verse, Rutherford expresses his dissatisfaction with the men of steel, really the men of power who are in leadership positions, who are losing control by the hour. He cries out, "Oh, Superman, where are you now? When everything's gone wrong somehow." And then it's back to a revised chorus. This is the time, this is the place we look for the future. The song challenges us to act now, to change for the better right now. Now is the time to do something about there, not being a lot of love to go around. What then follows is a really cool bridge that really shifts the tone of the song from opposition into a feeling of real hope. At least for a second there. Provides a real sense of relief, a pause in the tension and contention of the song. Shining sun, stars burning bright, the sound of your laughter as I held you tight. These images point to the hopeful dream of peace and happiness. They're the reasons for this song's protesting in the first place. And just as quickly as the window into this heavenly dreamscape was opened, it is shut again, and we're back to one more hard-hitting verse. My favorite. I won't be coming home tonight. My generation will put it right. We're not just making promises that we know we'll never keep. So obviously any discussion about Land of Confusion would be incomplete without referencing the music video. Now, by the mid-'80s, as visual technology continued to accelerate and innovate, music videos on MTV were becoming more and more artistic. Of course, Genesis had made plenty of musical promos in the past, but in the early days, most took the form of a band just playing along with the song. However, these videos evolved into more of an art form over time. We should do a few videos about this. For instance, Misunderstanding showed Tony Banks and Mike Rutherford playing their instruments on the back of a driving truck with Phil Collins driving and singing in a car behind. Illegal Alien had the guys in fake mustaches attempting to enter the U.S. And then Mama used a brothel for a backdrop.
Now I can keep you, Mama.
And Invisible Touch, well, it had Colin singing into his drumsticks. I had to throw that one in there. But really, it's Land of Confusion that stands out as the most memorable music video for the band and one of the best of the 80s. Receiving heavy rotation on MTV, it featured the wonderful, freakishly caricatured puppets of the band members and a host of world leaders and celebrities. Of course, all these were designed by the satirical UK TV show Spitting Image, which would account for the quirky and oft-times unsettling humor throughout the video. Now, the video won the Grammy Award for Best Concept Music Video. It was also nominated for an MTV Video Music Award for Video of the Year in '87. But get this, it lost to Sledgehammer by former Genesis frontman Peter Gabriel. I mean, what a year for videos. Oh my gosh. And I used to love not only this video, but I was a huge fan of the TV show Spitting Image, and I watched it religiously, and I drew the characters in my own version of like Mad Magazine. I put the two together. The week that it peaked at number 4 on the Hot 100, the 3 songs ahead of it were C'est La Vie by Robbie Neville, Open Your Heart by Madonna, and At This Moment by Billy Vera and the Beaters.
I would give at this moment.
Really hard to argue with that top 4, really. But today, we're going to give Land of Confusion our highest chart award on this channel, number 1 in our hearts. I mean, Genesis created a song that almost 40 years later reminds us that no matter the world that we live in and the names that we are given, stand up and let's start showing just where our lives are going to. Peace or chaos, hope or despair, love or hate. No matter how big and loud this world is, it starts with us, we the people. Leave us a comment about Genesis and Land of Confusion. What do you remember about the song and the music video? Did it fascinate you as much as it did me? Let's get a great discussion going. What do you think the song means? How do you feel that it ties into today? And if you like this, check out our coverage of Phil Collins' Against All Odds. There we tell the story of how this #1 hit was saved from the cutting room floor after Collins said that it was no better than a B-side. I love Phil Collins. I love Genesis, both versions. So if you like this, make sure to subscribe below. We'd love to have you as part of our community. Check us out on Patreon. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.